Boom. Look at that connection.
Oh, look at that speed.
Boom. Look at it.
Look at it. And
Look
just
at
like
it.
that,
We're live.
we're
It's
live.
crazy. Crazy, man. Crazy how that
And you
works.
know what I always like to say?
Mm,
If you're not live, you're recorded.
that's true.
Yep.
That's
It's a
true.
tale as old as time. It really is. Okay, I got that shared, man. I got that shared.
You got that shared, man. You got that shared.
I got that joy shared, man.
Man, I'm in that process too. I'm in that shared boat.
Oh, in the process of sharing, you saying?
Yeah, man. Well,
That's good.
actually, it's no longer in the process, and it is now
It's
shared.
done.
So it's crazy,
Damn,
man. It's crazy how that works.
that's crazy, huh?
I know, man. It is. It is crazy. It's crazy, bro.
Okay. All right. Well, how's everybody doing?
Mm-hmm.
I did think I closed out the wrong tab for just a second.
That could have been
So
bad.
we're glad to be live,
Mm-hmm.
and be alive because we both not been feeling well lately.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we hope all of you are feeling fantastic. Um, and we've got a really good one on tap for today. I'm gonna go ahead and start recording.
Do it up,
2, 1. Today we've got a really big thing we want to talk about. It was the Google I/O Developer Conference, which unveiled both hardware and software. That was a really big deal. And if you look at it from the standpoint of AI, Google is going to inject its AI thing that we tested, Bard. We tested it right here on this podcast.
man. Mm-hmm.
Um, it's going to inject that into its normal Google search engine. Only, not everyone will be able to use it, but a lot of people will, and so that's exciting. But with that comes a whole new slew of phones, tablets, all sorts of cool stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and combining that with Google's push to not only catch up but be the leader in consumer artificial intelligence. Um, there's a lot of exciting possibilities on the horizon, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And we have a lot of good things that we want to look forward to and discuss, including how the AI beyond just search engine AI is going to integrate with these phones and with these tablets. Hint, it's a lot more than Siri can do if
Mm-hmm.
Siri even responds. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. Oh man, I had the most frustrating. Like the other day, I was like, "Hey Siri, I'm driving on the road, right? So I need it to listen to me." I'm like, "Hey, play my podcasts, right? Because I'm driving."
Mm-hmm.
And like no response. Starts playing my music again.
It completely ignores you, man.
Yeah, so I try it again. Ignores me again, except this time it reset what I was listening to. So I wasn't even at least listening to the song that I wanted to be listening to. It just went to the top of my Apple Music library, which was even more annoying. So I was just like, let me do it myself. You don't know what you're doing, Siri. And I just started scrolling through and had to play a podcast myself. And I'm like, that's fine. These are first world problems. But
Mhm.
what's the point of having that program if it only works half the freaking time? I'm
Yeah.
glad that Zoom in was timed well because I'm pissed. I'm angry. You know? So,
Yeah, Apple's gotta get with it, man. They gotta get with it. Get with the times. That is actually something that, thinking about it, we actually haven't noticed, right? Or we haven't really gotten anything from Apple, right?
mhm,
All these big explosions of AI and different tech companies. You got Microsoft, you got Google, you know, duking it out, right, in the AI wars, and then you've got, of course, OpenAI, and you hear nothing from Apple. Not a peep.
I know.
No new improvements to Siri, no nothing.
No. Yeah, I saw, which is mind blowing because they were kind of the first with all that, as
Mm,
far as in a mobile device. You'd think they'd want to stay on top of that. And I saw this TikTok today that I thought, or yesterday, that I thought was very poignant because it was like people who buy an Apple car, right?
Mhm.
And it, it showed the car switch to low battery mode. And so the dude pulls off to the side of the road, and this is all like animated, right?
Yeah.
But he grabs like all these adapters that he has to
Yeah.
like size down so he can get like a normal size adapter that'll fit the plug into the car. Really funny. And I don't know. Hopefully they don't do something like that. But the crazy thing with Apple with the car is that that's supposed to be a self-driving car
Yep.
entirely, like no steering wheel or pedals.
Yep.
I'm not ready for that. Like I don't know if the car world is ready for that, but maybe that's where all of their AI investment has gone into is their vehicle. Yeah.
Maybe, maybe. I mean, I feel like there should be some reshuffling there, you know.
Mm.
Um, but hey, yeah, Apple's too busy charging people for a special USB-C cable, so you know.
You know what's funny today? You say that as I was working today on a Mac, I was getting it figured out. I was like, oh, it's ain't that bad.
Hmm.
I was like, maybe I might have to switch over to this joint. And then I remembered that's like $1,000 for a new Mac.
Yeah.
Uh, as your old one goes out, just because the software updates ruined it, and you have to buy all the accessories.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was
Um,
like,
I, I mean, if you get a Mac Mini, technically you could get a Mac Mini for like $600.
yeah, I know, but
Get
I
the
got
base model
Lenovo
Mac Mini.
right now.
That's true,
This
you do.
Lenovo is grande, and I like it. Um, let's go ahead and get back into the episode, man.
Just do it, man.
All right, let's run the intro. Three, two, one. What's going on, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is the catch up. That's right. In case you didn't know, you're watching the live stream, or if you clicked on the you clicked on the episode, you're like, wait, what the hell am I listening to? We remind you every beginning of every episode, which is great.
Hmm.
Um, all right, let's go. Three, two, one. Before we jump into today's episode, we want to remind you of the three best ways to support this show featuring visual enhancements. Number one, there it is. There it is. Uh, and I said we this time because it is a teamwork uh, thing that we do to, yeah, to share how to support us. Number one, leave us a rating review wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. Even on Facebook, you can leave a rating on our page. And on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit that like button. So that helps us out a lot. And of course, leaving a rating review if you're listening to the recorded version on the podcast. And subscribe if you like us as well. That really helps us to get more traction and being from more viewers, potential viewers. Number two, there it is. There it is. Number two, jump on the live stream with us and interact with us in real time. We do this live stream over on our Facebook page and on our YouTube. If you are listening to the audio and don't know this, it's a great way to interact with us in real time as we discuss these topics, and especially a lot of AI topics, because that is the talk of the town right now. We
Hmm.
want to hear your voice. We want to hear what you have going on with it. And number three, if you three different buttons, there it is. If you want to support us financially, jump over to the shop. Is linked down below wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. We got some good and yes, also some clean merch over there. T-shirts, long sleeves, beanies, hoodies. It's great. We got all kinds of things over there. So check it out. It's a great way to help us run this production that we got going. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this topic, man. What do you want to lead off with here? Because there is a lot that we could dive into. You know.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack. Let's go ahead and lead into the let's go ahead and lead into the hardware. because I feel like the last few weeks we've been talking tons about AI, and we're going to talk even more because I feel like Google I/O was Google's way of kind of doubling down on saying like, hey, we're big on AI. Let's do it. Let's show you what it can do. But
Mhm.
one of the other things is they're also pairing that AI with technology, right? With the hardware that they have. So let's jump into that hardware side. So
Let's
um yeah, Google announced three big products. All of them have been leaked for months now, but Google's great at keeping secrets, amazing at keeping secrets,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not the case. And it's kind of weird too, as to there are a lot of things that's secretive, like what goes on inside their company, like what that looks like, and
Mhm.
um interactions there. I don't know. I think there's a lot behind the curtain as far as Google HQ, but the projects that they're working on always seem to get leaked. It's really weird.
Yeah, super easily. Funny enough, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about, the first hardware piece that I wanted to talk about is they're just, super announced the Pixel Fold, which is Google's first entry into the folding scene. But the funny part is that it's been leaked for like years at this point. That they have been working on some sort of product, some sort of folding product. There were guesses that it was going to be released last year, but it didn't get released last year. And then it got released this year. And then we got like a lot of the specifications as well as like a view, a rendering of what it would look like earlier this year. So it's really cool. It's one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk about with this folding phone is that it is Google's first foray into, of course, a folding phone, but it's also the first folding phone outside of Samsung in the United States and a few other countries that has been released to the United States, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people forget about. So there have been more than just Samsung who has been releasing foldable phones. And as you can see here, it looks kind of cool and, you know, futuristic, and we'll get more into the design aspects of it. But um, uh, across the world, there's been like multiple different companies, usually Chinese companies that have created phones, folding phones, and they've had various, amounts of success. But Samsung still has been the leader in this category, especially in the United States, because they are the only ones.
Yeah.
So this is kind of interesting because it's another big player kind of really showing their muscle into the folding display type of deal. And it's interesting that their first folding display is the clamshell model, right? Or the hamburger or I guess the
Him
hot dog model.
hot dogs, yeah.
um
Warmer
so
after eating your hot dogs. That's the only way you
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. So it's interesting that they're first starting it out this way, and I think this is kind of I think it's going to be really interesting going forward to see if there's any other players who jump in. Like, are we going to see Apple try to jump in here or something like that? And also, this is big for the Android space because now you have Google, right? The main developers of Android creating their first foldable phone, which means that there's probably going to be a much bigger wave of developers pushing foldable applications or foldable compatible applications than what there were before. So, it's just really interesting and exciting kind of news.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is the apps that would interact with a foldable phone? Because I think there may be some people that look at this and they think, I mean, what's the point, right? You know.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
granted, there is a very obvious excitement about this, and that is There's so much that you could see easily. I mean, of course, I think when you open it, there's probably going to be an ability to have one app on one side of the screen, the other app on the other side of the screen, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but it'll also be really easy to read stuff, and that's
Yeah,
if you're
and
a if you're a business person, just working your tail off. That's a good idea. It's a
yeah,
really good idea. So I
yeah.
like that. Um, and I also, yeah, when you said, I've been rumored for years, I remember asking, I think it was like 2 years ago about that. Like, had it come out yet? It wasn't even
Mhm.
close to coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Strange. So, no, I like this a lot. But that is really cool. What kind of apps do you think would take advantage of extra space like that?
I mean, of course, first thing is content, right? Video content. So YouTube, of course, right?
Yeah.
YouTube, Netflix, any sort of streaming service where you're consuming video or some sort of content, I feel like that's going to be the biggest one, right? Everybody, I feel like, who is on, your traditional slab phone, right? uh thinks of, man, this is nice, but if I could just have a screen that was even bigger, that would be even better. And so this kind of gives you that feeling, that wondrous, that wonder that you get. um so I think that's probably going to be one of the biggest things. The other thing that I could think of is for productivity, like you said before. I can see someone using this as kind of like a mini workstation. I actually have at my in my workplace, I have seen people or I've had people tell me like they bought the Galaxy Fold 4, right? And they said, "Man, this is, before I actually got a computer for this job, I was using my phone and it worked great because I had this extra screen, the extra real estate on the screen that I wouldn't be able to get outside of, the phone that outside of this phone that I have." So I think that's another big thing for people. It's that productivity that just comes with these bigger form factors that you can use. Like, of course, you can use multiple apps all at the same time. They can be on the same screen instead of having to do multitasking, right? Where you're flipping between multiple apps. But you also have it to where if you're pulling up like big spreadsheets or something like that, you now have more real estate that you can look at, and that it's not in such a strange aspect ratio to where it's, everything's very distorted and stuff like that. So, of course, that's great for this. Um, and then I think just for like your everyday user, I think it's that extra real estate for browsing the web. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely a lot of people use phones for consumer stuff. I know in my current job, I've used mine more for work. Had no problem with my phone before I started using it to do work on.
Mhm.
But as soon as I did, I was like, man, it would be nice. And the thing
Mhm.
is, I mean, you probably could rotate, probably will have like a gyroscope in it, but you really wouldn't necessarily have to. You could have it open and kind of like you said, like say if you even open a video editing app, right? It's gonna have like a normal desktop aspect ratio on it.
Mhm.
It's smaller. That's a great idea. I love that. What do you think sets it apart from Samsung though?
I would say the form factor, honestly, because it's different. So if you've looked at like Samsung's foldables, and to be more specific, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold or whatever like that 4, um, it has a much more taller aspect ratio, where this one is a little bit more squared off. It looks actually more like a regular phone, right?
Hmm.
So it's essentially closer to like what a regular phone would look like, right? But
Yeah.
then you have the cool portion of it where where it maintains that same aspect ratio, where Samsung's is a little bit more slender, right? It'd be, say, cut it off about like right here. That would be
Mm,
Samsung's type of aspect ratio. It's kind of hard to see with my hand, but
yeah.
essentially, yeah, you'd cut off a little bit of it and it'd be a lot more slender. And then it opens up to be, a very big display where Google's is much more of a, it kind of keeps that same symmetry throughout, as well as a fold or a crease, or not a crease, but a fold to where there's no gap, where it's a gapless fold. Where if you have a Samsung Galaxy Z Fold Flip, whatever. Anyway, it's just a super long name. But anyway,
Right, I know, it's confusing. It really is. Their naming is not great, but yeah.
yeah, it is. For theirs, there is an actual, like, you can see like a gap in between the two displays. Now, Samsung quotes, or Samsung says that that's there for the longevity of the display, but as we've seen, display technology increase in having better efficiencies in multiple different ways and different designs. We've actually seen a newer design, which is called I think they call it the teardrop design, where you can get this pretty much flat, right, fold,
Mm,
with no like actual opening on the side,
yeah.
or with no like hole or whatever like that,
Wow.
and still maintain that durability. So, um, I think that's kind of one of the biggest things. The design of it is just a little bit more superior. Now, it is a little bit smaller. It's got like a 5.8-inch screen. So, for instance, right, my OnePlus phone, the display on this is, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a 7.6-inch display or whatever like that. So 5.8 inches is going to be kind of small, and that's for your front display. So
Mhm.
5.8 inches is probably going to be somewhere around like where my finger is, I would
Yeah,
say. You're probably cutting off about that much,
okay.
maybe a little bit more, or you might have a little bit more. It might be somewhere like right here. So it is a little bit of a smaller display. Which for some people, they like smaller things. And of course,
Yeah,
when you have a big device that folds open, a smaller outer display doesn't really matter that much.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, well, that's interesting. Thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting to see that finally come to market. And again, it's something that we talked about on the live stream. But it's interesting to see that Apple hasn't gotten into this yet.
Yeah.
With Samsung and Google both involved. How much longer will it take? It just really makes me wonder if they're just investing in their electric car or what's happening. I don't know. Um, okay, let's move on to the Pixel 7a
Yeah.
because we just decided that we were going to talk about this, and then I saw an ad for it on the NBA playoffs. So, um,
Okay.
and the news about it just came out today, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of wild. So they already had that planned, of course, but yeah, I want to hear about this and what makes it special.
Yeah. I mean, so the biggest thing about the Pixel 7a is that it is a more affordable Pixel 7. So if you can say, the Pixel 7 already comes out, I think at like 599 for the base model, right? And then of
Mhm.
course, depending on storage, you can spec it out to be even more. Well, the Pixel 7a is going to come out with a much um it's going to come out with a much lower price point. So it's going to come out at about 499. So essentially $500 USD, which is, a nice little price lowering. And you're still getting the top of the line tensor chip that Google came out with, which is Google's one of the big things too about Google's new Pixel line, and that they've been really working on, their Pixel series, is that they now have their own chip, right? So
Yeah.
similar how Apple has their A bionic chips or whatever like that. Um, Google now has their own. So now it's their Tensor 2 chip. So you're getting a Tensor 2 chip uh in their more budget friendly phone, and which that means it has, a lot more performance, which is really great. It has a better screen than the last Pixel 6a, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
and it has a higher refresh rate as well as wireless charging. So all of those are really big things. It's really just building upon what the Google Pixel 6a had, and just kind of making it a little bit better.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the easiest way to talk about it. I mean, it's just making things a little bit better than where the Pixel 6a or the Pixel 6a was, and now the Pixel 7a is a little bit better, bigger. It's a little bit more pricier than the 6a. The
Sure.
6a, the one of the issues with the 6a was, or I shouldn't say one of the issues, but the 6A was, it came out when it first came out. It was 449, and now the 7A, like I said, is at 499. You can
Gotcha.
still buy the 6A for 449. So Google now is kind of creating an environment similar to how Samsung has it, where there's almost every price point has, or almost every budget has a phone to be within that, right?
Hmm. Yeah. That's cool, and it is interesting to me. you know, One of the big things for this 7A, it now has 4K available cameras on all of its cameras,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
iPhone 11 that I own, have owned for several years, already had that, right? And I think even the 10 before it had that,
Mhm.
or the X, whatever. So, um, anyway, but at the same time, with all that said, it's only 499. You can't really beat that, you know.
Yeah.
You can't
Exactly.
beat them, and so it still has all the cool features that you'd really need from a phone, and then of course all of the processing horsepower that you were mentioning, which is really important because one of the things that we're going to talk about here in a little bit is the AI integration on these phones
Mhm.
that is possible because of these chips. And so, um, I think that's interesting. Also, I want Pringles because it kept saying chips. Okay, well, my first question for you with the
Mm.
Pixel tablet,
Mhm.
what would be the main benefit other than size over the phone? The Not the 7A, but the Pixel Fold,
Mhm.
because Pixel Fold has a big screen and it also has, I would imagine, similar processing horsepower, right? So,
Yeah.
um, what would be the main selling point on that?
Well, for the Pixel tablet, one of the biggest things about it is that it is, if anyone has looked at Google's lineup of Google Home accessories, right? So like a Google Home, or I guess technically now it's rebranded as the Nest Home or Nest Mini or whatever like that, their Nest series. But if anyone has had like a Nest Home, right, it's essentially a little tablet, right? But it also has Google Assistant integrated into it, and so you have this nice little screen. You can do video calls, all that good stuff. The cool thing about the Pixel tablet is that it's essentially like a an oversized detachable version of that, right?
Oh,
So
right.
so the cool thing about it is, when you buy it, it comes with a stand that's a speaker built into it. So,
Really?
um, which is really, yeah, it's a whole full speaker. And then what's really cool is once it's docked on that little stand speaker deal, it acts as though it's a Google Home.
Okay.
Um, And so it makes it to where you can do, of course, all the cool functionality that you can normally do with all of your Google environmental ecosystem type deal. But you can do it in a with a much larger display, as well as um, being able to detach it and move it around and do other stuff with it. So I think that's kind of one of the biggest things. Uh, it's like if you had an iPad, but now that iPad can also has its own little speaker that charges it and has all of the cool capabilities that you would want from, say, like a what is Apple's equivalent, like a Home Pod or whatever like that,
Oh yeah, yeah.
built into that. So
A home pod. Do you
the
remember when? Do you remember when the Apple homes, uh, just when you bought them new, they would stain whatever you set them on, and
Mhm.
it was impossible to remove.
Yep, yep.
That was insane. That was yeah. I can't believe that was a thing that happened. So that's
Yeah,
really
you paid like
interesting.
$500 for that too.
What's that?
I think at the time, I think you'd be paying something like 500 or $600
That's
for,
right.
yeah, for something like that. So,
That's nuts. Yeah. Well, so the fact that comes with this stand, right?
mhm.
For a speaker or with the speaker, you could really replace your Google Home with this, couldn't you?
Yeah, you can. You can.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's what's really cool about it. I think it's the form factor that they have it kind of put together in. Um, That yeah, you can replace it with your Google Home deal. You get this cool opportunity to where if you're looking at something on it, you can pull it off. Say you're doing a video conferencing thing. I mean, I don't know if you're doing like a Teams call or something like that. You're already looking at it on the little base that it's on, right? But then you're like, you know what? I need to take this to the bedroom or whatever like that. You can detach it, move it all the way over there, and you're good to go,
Yeah.
right? Um, and then at the same time, if you're like watching YouTube on it, and then you're like, "Ah, well, I need to get ready to, start cooking or whatever like that." You can plop it back on the base, and then you can watch your YouTube video or even get your cooking instructions and lower the lights and all sorts of other stuff like that,
Right.
um, all directly from the tablet while you're doing other stuff. So, I think it just adds such a cool functionality. I mean, I'm sure it's kind of a gimmick, but I think it's just Google pushing further into that integrated ecosystem that they're trying to create, something similar to like how Apple has it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really cool. I think it's a great replacement for a Google Home, and
Yeah,
um the way you can tell it's made to go no. Check this out, right? You got these. Can you see my mouse on this? No, you can't.
I don't.
Just
I
look at the
don't.
colors, right?
Uh-huh.
You got white up at the top and at the bottom on the left side. You got kind of a slate gray, and then
Mhm.
you have a beige, right? These are all just kind of neutral colors that go well with any home,
Yep. Yep.
or almost any home. So, um, that speaker is going to be interesting to me. I'm going to be interested to hear what that sounds like,
Yeah.
especially if you have the tablet on it at the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see that. But that's a great idea. I actually really like that. And 499 for that. I mean, especially when you look at like what Apple's charging for an iPad,
Mhm.
it's not a bad idea. I know iPads can kind of do the same thing with Apple Home, stuff, but uh man, I don't know. I really like this.
Yeah, I do too. I'm a Google Home already, so
Yeah.
I've got Google everywhere. So this would be a really cool thing for me to be able to kind of integrate into um, into my home if I were to buy something like this. I think this would be really neat.
Yeah, that is my struggle, I will say, is I can't say okay Google really well. That's kind of like a weird thing for me. That's a tongue twister for me, man. But yeah, so let's see. My bad. The colors are porcelain, hazel, and rows. So
Oh, okay.
apparently they did not edit, or maybe they over edited this photo because it does not look like any of those colors. I'm not gonna lie. So that's cool. Yeah. 11-inch tablet too, man. That's a lot of
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, it's a pretty beefy or a pretty big size, which I mean is great for content stuff, you know. I know
Yeah,
I have an iPad and I really and it's only like 10 inches it's like a 10.6 inch screen or something like that. And that's pretty big by my standards. So 11 inches would be pretty crazy.
I agree. Thing I will say, 8 megapixel rear camera, not that great.
Yeah, but who takes a picture with with their tablet? Like, that's
Retired
an old
people,
person thing, man.
that
Think about it, right? You
You're-
look so weird. You look like a dork if you pull up with your tablet like, "Hey, I'm gonna take a picture."
there's a large number in the senior community that take photos with their tablets.
Yeah, the
I'm pretty
growing senior community.
I'm pretty sure if they could, they would take photos with their laptops, man.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they would. Sure they
Yeah.
would.
Just pick it up. They go. All right, let me grab this real quick. um, but yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna be taking too many photos with the tablet, but if
Mhm,
and when you do, you don't want them to look weird. I mean, oddly enough, I think that cheap Lenovo tablet I bought,
mhm.
I think it has an 8 megapixel camera. I'm pretty sure it does.
Right.
No, that's wrong, but it does have a 2 megapixel camera. Hey, that's
I
what's up.
mean, yeah, but I'll say kind of going into our AI topic,
Mhm.
Google's computational photography, so it's how their photography is done on their phones as well as other stuff, which is using, AI processes and all sorts of other software trickery to make the photos better, to use the camera sensors that are on those devices and essentially do a lot to make them really really good is really good. So their computational photography is really good. So even if it is an 8 megapixel sensor, I can easily see it still pushing out some really beautiful photos just because of how well their software is. So um and then, of course, it's powered by the same G2 chip set
Yeah.
that all of their Pixel lineup is now powered by. So I think it's got a lot of really cool stuff, and that AI processor that's on that G2 chip really hammers home all like the cool features that they get or that
Yes,
it can do.
I agree. Um, yeah, that sorry, I got distracted by something, but
No worries.
I did find some really interesting AI features that are coming to all of these devices that we just discussed.
Mm,
Um, yeah, whether you have your 11-inch tablet
mm-hmm,
or your 7.5-inch phone.
mm-hmm.
That's diagonal, by the way.
Yes.
Um, yeah, all of it, man. AI coming to all of it. So let's talk about this first.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and then we'll go into the overall Google thing as well. Uh, so first of all, chatbot style answers are coming like to the phones. I'm reading this off for you, so I make sure I get it right. So AI features will be coming to the mobile operating system, is what I'm trying to say. Now, we talked about this earlier in the live stream, but not on the recorded version. iPhones, there's me, um, do not have this level of AI. And you would think, since Siri was like the first on the scene, you know what I mean? You would
mm-hmm.
think Siri would uh, take a major update, you know?
Yeah.
But so far, not the case. So let's see here. this is just let's get into the nitty-gritty, man.
Mhm.
So, first of all, creation tools in workspace, which I understand has been expanding anyway, with a number of things. I know that they're going to have a transcribe tool in workspace for
Mhm.
audio, which is good, but that's going to be powered by this AI as well. But yeah, docs, sheets, slides. It's called Duet AI, man.
Mm.
And so you can use it. It's generative AI. It's basically what they will have on their search engine, right?
Yeah, it's akin to what Microsoft has as their co-pilot, right? So it's essentially their AI tools or their AI chatbot or just like you said, generative AI jumping into all different types of productivity applications and just kind of running with you and helping you out, stuff like that.
Yeah. So let's see. There are yeah, I can auto generate spreadsheets. Oh, dude,
Mm, yeah,
that's
that's pretty crazy.
invaluable. Look, I'm gonna be honest. When we started this podcast, I probably would have slid right past the generate spreadsheets section of this discussion. But 29-year-old John would love some help on spreadsheets. That's really good. You can create job descriptions, creative stories, all that kind of stuff, just as people have been doing with ChatGPT.
Hmm.
But it can build out whole presentations, suggesting text for slides, or, and this is something you mentioned to me before, instantly generating custom visual elements. So basically, for your phones, right? You can have a background or your home lock screen be whatever you want it to be, by telling the AI to create it, just as you've seen generative art AI. This will be built into the phone, and you can say, hey, I'd like a background that's like a sunset in the hills, blah blah, and it will do it.
Hmm.
You could also say you'd like a backdrop that's like Iron Man fighting Godzilla. I don't know. I wouldn't do that, but maybe some kid out there would do it. And um and it will do that. I mean, so it's kind of cool that that is built into the phone, because I do think that's a
Yeah.
cool, it's also a controversial piece of AI, but I do think it's cool. Um so yeah, I don't know. I like all of that, man. I think that those are good additions for the phone, especially for people who will, as we said, be working from their phones. And even if you're working on your tablets, I feel like that makes work more viable for your tablet, and even from especially the fold, like we were saying,
Oh yeah.
uh, fold phone. But how do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like we said earlier, it's Google doubling down. It's saying like, hey, we were one of the biggest, contenders in this space, and we're not gonna just let these newcomers come in and take our spot, right? So,
Right.
um, I think Google has a really good opportunity here since they already have hardware out, right? Because of their Pixel series, which is something that Microsoft doesn't really have. They do have, of course, Microsoft has their Duo, their Microsoft Duo or something like that. I think it is.
Mhm.
Um, which is kind of a folding phone. It's just technically like two screens plopped together. But Google now has, they already have their Pixel line, which has already been really big on, AI. Or in Google Assistant and all of these other kind of semi AI features that they've had. And so now
Mhm.
they're really doubling down and putting like some really good stuff. It's a good way to pull people in. And even if, say, Google is kind of already on the back foot with OpenAI's ChatGPT and Microsoft's Bing AI, this is a great way to pull people who otherwise would not be super involved with Google's Bard AI, um, in any of their AI products to kind of push them into that ecosystem and bring Google to top of mind when it comes to generative AI rather than where it is now, right? So I think another one of the big things that they're also adding is in Google Messages, which is Android's messaging app, right? They're
Right.
bringing Bard chat bot directly into there
Whoa.
to make it a little bit easier for you to say, write text messages or something similar to that. Um,
Right.
or adjust syntax and messages and all sorts of other stuff like that. Adapt tones, all that. So, um, it's a really interesting, it's Google really trying to push, saying like, "Hey, we've got AI too. Let's do it. Let's do it up."
Well, I I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like we could do a whole other episode on mixing AI in with text messages. I don't know. That
I
feels
mean,
weird to me, man.
yeah, we can do a whole episode on that. I don't think it's that weird because I feel like a lot of people are already doing that in some ways.
Well, yeah,
I've
but it's not you have to go out of your way to ask the AI, "Hey, what would I say here? Here's the context. Let me send you the last 20 text messages."
No,
And,
I
you know,
mean
you have to go out of your way, you're doing that. You're not gonna have it at your disposal. So, like, what if every text message between people was just AI generated?
I mean, of course, there's always that possibility, right?
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know, man. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
hey, the way that Google is saying it in here, it sounds like it's more of just a kind of assistant, right? So, of like saying like, "Hey, you worded this a little weird. Let me just reshuffle it so it makes sense."
Sure.
Or doing like quick spot checks, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it seems to be. It doesn't seem like, hey, write me a message for this, and it just kind of jumps in and says like, yeah, instead of me texting you, talking about my day, I'm having Bard jump in there and saying like,
Mhm.
hey, bro, blah blah blah, and it's got the same context as me. It's not that.
It's like, hello, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I went to the bathroom, I made myself breakfast, I got in my car and drove to my job. So it won't be like that.
No, no, it's not gonna be like that. So it seems like it's more like a Grammarly assistant in your
Gotcha.
text messages, which, hey, who wouldn't want that?
I think it's super helpful. Grammarly, by the way, which is a total side note, but it does have it's partnered with Chat GPT in a way. However, I know that's not it can't be 100% true because it's tried to correct. I have it on this computer, right? And so it's no secret on this podcast. Ever since we started talking about AI, the proof in the AI pudding is that we make the episode titles and the episode descriptions with Chat GPT. Now we may edit it a little bit
Mhm.
here. But with that said, I Grammarly will pop up and be like, here's a better way to write this. I'm like, but your partner just told me this was fine. Like, what? I don't understand.
Yeah, you guys are
Grammarly
you
and
guys
ChatGPT
are,
are like, what's up?
no, no, go ahead.
It's Grammarly and ChatGPT are like some good cop, bad cop. I feel like,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well, I mean, but we've already noticed in general that like being AI, even and Chat GPT 4, both will spit out different answers. It's how each of the organizations have tweaked the AI, even if the backbone is the same, but they've
yeah.
tweaked it to work the way they need it to.
hmm Well, and Snapchat AI. Just
Oh yeah.
I've seen certain news reports on it. We all know it's no secret. I've talked about it for years on here. Longtime viewers of the show now. I hate Snapchat. I will not. be using that weird little dude on that AI platform.
I've tried it once. It was a little weird, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know. It seems more human than any of the others I've seen, but
yeah.
um, yeah, people have been able to really get to do some things that are in violation of what should be in violation of its code, which is interesting. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I
So
feel
anyway,
like
let's. Oh, go ahead.
Snapchat's
What were
a
you
little
gonna say?
bit of I feel like Snapchat doesn't fully take as much responsibility on certain things
They don't
as
follow the rules.
others would.
They
Yeah.
don't follow the rules, man. They don't. Um, let's jump into the last part of this discussion is the
Mhm.
AI features coming to Google. We knew about this to an extent. We've beta tested Bard right on this channel. Try saying
Mhm.
that multiple times. Beta tested Bard.
Beta
Uh,
test.
I think just editorially, I know we need to get into this subject. Bard is the worst name it could have come up with. Like Bard. I know it's an acronym. I don't care. I think it's stupid. Like I don't know. Anyway, so back to the discussion. Um, so yeah, Bard will be expanding, which is good. It'll be better, but also it will still be limited access to this. It's kind of like how ChatGPT is on GPT-4 now. This will
Mhm.
also be on a new, more accurate, more conversational, uh, yeah, just better overall platform, a new language model, if you will. Um, so yeah, we'll be able to get on Google if you are one of the lucky few to get on the wait list and get access to this. Um, and play around with this, which is good. And it will also expand into Gmail, Google Sheets, and Google Docs, just like we talked about.
Mhm.
For the phone, I just looked on Google to see if I could sign up for it. I cannot. I'm very sad. But I will carry on anyway.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, that new language model, um, it's supposed to be better at logic, common sense reasoning, and mathematics, which is interesting. It can also generate specialized code in different programming languages, which ChatGPT could already do. So
Mhm.
how we feel about these upgrades. Obviously, a big deal that's coming to Google. It's still the number one search engine in the world. I know when Bard or when Bing launched Bing AI, it caused Bing servers problems because so many people went to try it out, right?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, Google, number one search engine in the world. It'll be an interesting thing to see what this brings them, as far as response and user uptake, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it'll be very, very interesting. I cannot wait to see what they have in store. Because I think it'll really, really make the search wars battle heat up. Because I will say I've gone to Bing a little bit more than I have Google. I mean, Google, of course, still when I need something super quick and whatever like that, I'm still gonna go to Google's search engine. But there have been a multitude of times where I'm like, you know what? Let's go to Bar or let's go to Bing
Yeah.
and let me get that chatbot up in there, and then let me go ahead and start searching there. Um, and it's been very helpful. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see. It's not something I'm used to because I haven't really played around with it yet. So combining traditional online search with an AI, what would that look like? What benefit will that bring?
Hmm.
Um, it'll be interesting to see. So Google is getting after it, man. Um, they're really putting the pedal to the metal, and I think they should if they don't want to get left behind by OpenAI and by
Hmm.
Microsoft. So, yeah, it'll be good to see where that goes and if Apple actually gets involved at all.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to add? I think we had a good discussion on this.
No, I guess really my biggest thing is that I just can't wait to see, you know, how this AI war as well as hardware war, because I feel like it's starting to kind of become that. Um, will heat up in the future and kind of like what this will do. Are we going to start seeing more phones actually doing more integration or putting more and bigger emphasis into AI features within the phone to kind of bolster it even
Yeah,
more, right? Is it going to be, are we going to push more hardware bounds or are we going to shrink down, Google entering the folding market, does that mean that we're going to get more folding phones for the United States?
mhm,
Um, there's so many cool questions that kind of popped up from this announcement in this presentation that it really makes me wonder, what we're gonna do.
yeah,
I will say this: my next phone, whenever I decide to get one of those, is going to be a folding phone. I think
it'll
I
fall.
even so um who knows what I'll get, but I know that is something that I really want to do and I really want to push for. So
Yeah,
I think it is kind of a new frontier, and I really can't wait to see what we got in the space.
absolutely. Also, I want to take a step back because I had the wrong tab open on here and I did not have our comments open. Man, we got a
No.
comment I want to jump into. Joe has left a comment. She says, on Gmail, it already prompts simple replies to emails, which is super helpful. Is enough context from the one email it's trying to reply to. Text seem harder to naturally incorporate AI into, and I agree with that. I mean, Outlook has those short replies too.
Mm.
Like when you have that email, you don't even have to reply. You can just say, would it'll say like, would you like to reply? And it'll give you like three options to choose from. So this sounds like what Gmail is already doing too. The thing is, I mean, yeah, to expand upon that, because those are what I guess to be fair, I don't know what they look like on Gmail because I don't use Gmail. Um, but I imagine they're what 3-word replies.
Sometimes it's actually like whole sentences
Okay, well then
where
I
it'll
think
just plop in a whole sentence of because it can kind of understand from the context of what I'm writing. Oh, you might want this, and it'll just plop it in there.
okay. So with that said, what benefit would AI integration give to Gmail if it already has that kind of stuff? What do you think?
I mean, it could do bigger and better things, right? You could make it to where you type in and say, um, "I'm gonna do this," or even like before you, as you, or I'm writing an email for X, Y, and Z, and then it just kind of figures it out, and then it plops it in there, and it gives you like, it creates a whole deal for you. I can see something like that.
Definitely.
Um, writing whole emails for you. I think that's the biggest thing. Instead of trying to do like more of a predictive text type of deal, but it's a whole email that's created. I think that would be incredibly helpful and then time saver.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, definitely. Yeah. I bet you that it lets you expand like you said. Like how we've seen people on Chat GPT be like, "Hey, write me an email for this situation blah 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 blah." I bet you it'll be that type of a thing, you know.
Hmm.
Um yeah. Yeah, I wonder what that will totally look like. And I do agree that texts do seem harder to naturally incorporate with AI, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah,
AI's getting better every day, like Dennison always says.
it
Um,
is. It is. Today is the worst we will see AI. It only gets better. It's such a crazy concept to think about, but it's very much true. Um,
we need like a slogan. Today is the worst AI will ever be.
yeah, exactly. I mean, also, you also can think about it too. It may be better at creating your own tone in a text message because if you give it, it will have the context of a whole text thread,
Mhm.
right? it'll have that whole context. It'll understand how you reply to them. It'll understand your cadence, your all sorts of stuff, and then it'll be able to help you craft and create texts that are still in your style, but a little bit easier
Yeah,
to get out and a little bit faster. So,
that's a great idea with that. I love that. Yeah, it would definitely would be more access to your style and your tone, like you said. I think if
mhm.
it's more something like Grammarly where it crafts in your tone, um, that'd be beneficial for sure. So, yeah, I think we had a great discussion on this. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to look out for from Google coming soon. So we will keep an eye out for it. And of course, we'll keep an eye out for anything else AI. But for
Mhm.
now, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll catch up with you next week.